Ushtavaiti Yasna 43. Ushtamae Yahmae Ushtakahmae Cheat Vasakshyas Mazdae Dayat Ahuro Autayoeti Tevishim Gatoevaseme Hashem derediaetat moedae armaitie rayo ashis vanheus gaemananho. Success to me, to you, and to whosoever will, may mindful Lord, who rules at will over all things, grant. Both enduringness and vitality may come to thee of thee. O Lord, do I desire this. As to me, grant me that I may maintain my hold on justice, and do thou, O love, grant me riches, compensation, and the life of good disposition. And oh, this is a long one. Verse 2. Acha maevis panam vahishtem vathroyana vathrem dedita thwa chi thwa Spenishtamenu Mazdaya Dasha Vanheus Maya Emananho Vispa Eare Daregodiatois Urvadanha. Yes, good disposition will give the best of all things to this Zarathustra. Oh, doesn't quite say that. Will give the best of all things to this, according to his wish. He will give him the comfort of heaven. O mindful, through thy most bounteous mentality, reveal all these blissful mysteries of good disposition which thou givest through justice, with all the joys that are long and vital on every day. Verse 3. Atvo venheus vahyona ibi jamyat yena erezus chavanhu pathu chisoet ahyan heus achvato mananhat cha heithyang achtis yangashyatiahuro aredro thwavae huzentuse epentumazda. May he who, like thee, O mindful, is faithful, well-informed, and bounteous, who would teach us the just paths of profit, namely, those of the good life, corporeal and mental, that lead to the real worlds, where dwells the Lord. May he arrive to what is better than good. Certainly better than anything we can think of as good. Verse 4. Athwam menga etachmen cha bentem mazdayat tazachayatu hafshiyavae yaedae ashis dregvaete ashaunaecha thwahya garama thro ashajanho Yadmoevan heus hazejemat mananho. In order that I may receive the power of good disposition. I would in thee, O mindful Lord, acknowledge heroism and bounteousness, through the hand in which thou holdest the compensation to be given to the wicked and the righteous, and through the glow of thy fire, whose vigor is justice. And verse 5. Ependem et thwamazdamengi aurahiat thwan heus zathoedaret chempaurvin yadaeskiathana mizdabam yacha Ukla kemakaevandoim ashimven have thwaunaradamois urvaechapem. I acknowledged thee, O Lord mindful, as the bounteous divinity, when at the beginning I beheld thee at the birth of life, when thou didst establish compensations for deeds and words, a bad for the bad and a good compensation for the good, with thy skill at the last crisis of creation. Verse 6. Yami spenta thwamenu urvaese jasu mazdakshatrahmi vohumananha yahyashyathanaes Gaethae ashafradente aebioratus sengaiti armaetes thwanya kratos yamnaeches dabayete. At which crisis come thou, O mindful, with thy bounteous mentality, with power, good disposition, and justice, through whose deeds are prospered the human estates, for which love formulates judgments of mindful's understanding, which no one ever deceives. Verse 7. Spentem at thwamazdamengi hurahyat mabahu pirijasat mananha peresat chama chis ahi kahyahi kathayare dakshara ferasayae Dishai thwahu gaethahu tanushicha. I recognize thee, O mindful Lord, as the bounteous, through the answer with which I was inspired, when with good disposition came around to me and asked, Who art thou? To what divinity belongest thou, and with what token wilt thou appoint the day for questioning about thy substance and thyself? And verse 8. Atoeaji Zarathustra Parvin Haethyu Dvaeshae Yadeso Yadregvaete Arashane Rafeno Yamajangavat Yadabushtis Vasasekshatra Yadya Yavadathwamazdastami avyacha. Therefore, I, Zarathustra, said to him at first, I would wish to be a genuine enemy to the wicked, but a vigorous support for the righteous, so that I may plan for the developments of the now limited coming kingdom, as much as I am now praising and lauding thee, O mindful. So, before the blood and soil Zionism, and going way back, is this idea of the nation taking part in its own spiritual warfare to bring about what's right for it and society towards an end times scenario. But it's about setting a good example. The book of Isaiah will confirm the same thing. Verse 9. Spendem at thwamazdamengi ahura yatma bohu piri jasat mananha yafarasem kahmaya vivi uryevashi at athwamai Atreratam Nemanu Ashahyama Havat Asaimanyai. I recognize thee, O mindful Lord, as the bounteous, when, with good disposition, came around to me and asked a question. To his question, what cause dost thou intend to adopt? I answered, at each oblation of reverence brought to thy sacrificial fire, I will, to the extent of my ability, fix my mind on justice. Verse 10. Wait, did I already share that? Atumo vedayas Hashem hyatma zazami armeti hachimnoit arem parasacha nayatoe ehma parshta parshtem zithwayatanatat Emavatam yatvakshayas ayashem vyadem avantem. But show me the justice whom I invoke. In company with love and justice I have come. For thy question was the question of the powerful. When some ruler insists on having his mighty, powerful wish by thee, now ask us what thou hast to ask us. And verse 11, let me make sure it doesn't continue to the next page. Spentem at thwamazdamengi ahura yatma bahu peri jasat mananha yat kshmaukdas diraingie paurim saramoesas mashyaeshu zarazdaetis Tad veres yediae yat moim ratavahishtem. I recognize thee, O mindful Lord, as the bounteous, when I was first instructed in your utterances, and when with good disposition came around to me, will the doing of that which you have told me is the best to do, arouse trouble among men for me. And sometimes doing what we should do or not doing what we shouldn't do can seem troublesome. but overall it remains to be the best thing. Verse 12. Yachamu imrasa shemjasu frakshnen atumo inuit asrushta piryangza uziredia parahyat moe ajmat serashu ashimazaraya Hachemnu yaviashis ranoim yusavoe vidayat. At the same time, when thou toldest me to answer him, depend on justice for support, then to me who was not disobedient, thou utteredst the command. Thou hadst better arouse before the coming of obedience, together with the rich compensation, who will distribute to both contending parties compensations for their profits. Verse 13. Spentem atwamazdamengia yatmavo piri jasat mananha arethavo izdyae kamahya temo edatadaringahya yaus yemvaena echis daresht Etevirya estois yathwami kshatroe vachi. I recognize thee. At the same time when thou toldest me to answer him, depend on justice for support, then to me who was not disobedient, thou utterest the command. Thou hadst better arouse before the coming of obedience together with the rich compensation, who will distribute. To both contending parties compensation for their profit. And verse 13. Spentem athwamazdamangia hurahyatmavohu pirijasat mananha arethavo izdyae kamahyatem moedata Darengahya yavusyem vaena echis daresht etevirya estois yathwa mikshatroivachi. I recognize thee, O mindful Lord, as the bounteous, when with good disposition came around to learn the details of my desire, give me the inalienable gift of long enjoyment of the desired existence which is said to be in thy realm. Yatna friyaeva endam no isvadidit mebyo mazdat havarafeno Frakshnanem yathwakshatra ashat hachafrashtauziranyai azem zaredanai zengaya mattaes vispaes Yo etoem athraem arente. Just as a wealthy man, according to his knowledge or ability, gives to a friend, Do thou, O mindful Lord, give to me those thy provisions of support, inasmuch as thou endowest me with justice, so that I may stand forth with all those who remember thy mystic word, to arouse church organizers of thy teachings, assembly organizers of thy teachings. Because remember, the real prophetic figures didn't want some hero shrine. It's been done for me is like get an assembly together that acts publicly, that acts towards the means, right? So verse 15. Spentem athwa mazdam mengi ahura yatma vohu piri jasat mananadakshyat ushyaet ushnamites vahishtanoet napaurus dregvato yat Chikshnu atoevis peng angrengashanduadare. I recognize thee, O mindful Lord, as the bounteous, when with good disposition came around. Then the best silent devotion inspired me to proclaim the important should not curry favor with the wicked, for it is of the righteous to take them all as hostile. Now, that can be taken too far as a maxim, to encourage what is best, as personified in my channel icon, the consciousness and the action in anybody. And if we don't treat people with respect, whether or not we agree with them, how do we expect to be a part of what is best in their life? 43:16. But, if we really support people, we're not going to support them in any of the worst. Adahura vominium Zarathustro verente mazdayaste chischa spenishto astvat ashem yat ushtana anjonvat vengdaresoe kshathroe yat Armites ashim shyathanais vahudit mananha. Yea, O mindful Lord, inasmuch as Zarathustra chose the bounteous mentality of mindful, he teaches that each most bounteous should to himself attach justice. See, to give it a context, what we're talking about before is we attract justice, not evil. By living in a vigorous corporeal manner, may love in the power that ever beholds the sun, may love be found in the power realm that may love be found in the realm that ever beholds the sun. Where we pray, may love, with good disposition to all, grant a compensation through the instrumentality of the deeds they may have performed. So, Ushtavaiti Gatha, Yasna 44 will be next on the list. And see, I have a ways to go before I get to the end, but summary of Zarathustra's message. Let's speak for several minutes or so on that. Oh, well, not several minutes or so on that. That's just sort of... We cannot leave these sublime hymns without indicating similarly the chief motives which prompted them, which they embody and which they still preach to futurity. Root principle, protection of animals from cruelty. It was the call of the cattle, Yasna 29, which led Zarathustra's external call as a prophet to teach men to protect the cattle. To those so-called enemies who treat the cattle with violence, 31:15, 32:12, 49:4, 51:14, the members of the congregation are assured themselves of eternal reward by care of the cattle, 33:3 and 34:14. Now, last night I grabbed hold of a chicken, and it certainly would have been easier to just, but you calm down the farm animal. You try to hide the weapon. You get it low, and the cats ruin things. The chicken saw it was being surrounded by cats, and that did not work for it. But you calm down the animal rather than just grab it and no, you hang it after it's been slaughtered, or to make it pass out quicker. Yeah, but no, you got to be kind. Even animal slaughter, it's not to be, it's not what we find when we go to the grocery store. First result, vegetarianism. It is enemies who kill the cattle, 32:12, and eat them, 31:15, and who teach others to eat the pieces of flesh, 32:8. Possibly it sacrifices. So the attempt to be carnivorous, I am researching a group that I am going to say something about. Well, I need to experience some things per se. But in a month, I'm going to, one of the ordeals that they like people to do is go a few months without eating anything but meat, and that's a bit excessive on a whole series of levels. But so maybe it was the people who was like, well, I don't want to grow vegetables. I just want to kill animals and die in my 30s or 40s. Or taking delight in killing animals. That's the thing very specifically mentioned, is the, I get to kill. It's like, or something wrong with people. So the second result, settling of land and agriculture. Cattle needs pasture, stables, and fodder. Consequently, protection of cattle implies settling on definite pieces of land and practices of the laws of agriculture. 29:1, 31:9, 31:10. This fact attests that far from being recent productions, these hymns are possibly some of the most venerable of human documents, echoes of the religious dialect of man's first steps in civilization. Third result, forming of parties by patriotic partnership. Inevitably, settlers of one valley form a community, and love of home develops into patriotism, which considers their own valley paradise or heaven. The contiguity of I don't, why aren't I saying it right? Of other valleys, however, brings home to them the outside universe, which appears as hell or limbo, according to its inhabitants, are enemies, are indifferent friends. Fourth result, dualism, clothed in religious verbiage. These practical needs, see Yasna 39 through 11, connected with 33 through 8, appear as two divinities, the good and the evil, representing agriculture versus nomadism. The dualism of 45:2 is connected with the agriculture of 45:3 and 5. I remember in a lot of languages, particularly ancient, there's a sort of, it's not as precise, so people later came up with the doctrines that were probably not as intended, or the context could have been lost over time, because, okay, if you have 72 yasnas that have survived, the old ones, only 17 of them, what is to say about the other 20 nationals? The fifth result, need of a leader and teacher, called Zarathustra. But the good, peaceable agriculturalist needs a leader against warlike against the warlike nomad, who to him is evil. Zarathustra's recognition of this need expresses itself in Yasna 29:8. There's more to the whole nomad thing than just warlike, but civilization has actually proved to be more so. Sixth result, Zarathustra's struggles emphasizes his personality. Although Zarathustra was called forth by the need of a teacher, his kindness to cattle, and of a prophet of dualism, his labor by peaceful means were fruitless. Yasna 44 and 45, c. 53, 8, and 9. Unfortunately, this standing still became retrogression before the aggressiveness of the enemy to attain no more than peace. 53:8. He must incite to war and slaughter, as the enemy's damnation is inevitable, and the sooner they are butchered, the better. 53:9. It was fated, however, that he himself should perish by the sword he had thus drawn. To support these doctrines of damnation and blood, there's needed an authority greater than that of teacher or prophet, than that of priest. 28, 1 through 5, 33, 57 and 8, of redeemer, 45:11, of mediator, 56 and 9, and of advocate. Let us hope that it is only because of this that heresy is constituted by mere opposition or discourtesy to Zarathustra. 51:10 and 51:12. Who even becomes the judge at the end of things? Seventh result, when the prophet's God becomes supreme. Well, a true God would always be supreme, but while the Gathas remain polytheistic to the end, yet they do teach not as quite as much as one thinks. And if they are polytheistic, then Christianity really is polytheistic. Again, they don't want to admit that the Christianity is polytheism. The preachers. Yet do they teach the supremacy of Mazda, but they do so in a manner such as to suggest that it was either novel or questioned. The heat of the prophet's championship of Mazda betrays his originality in superimposing Mazda over the Iranic pantheon. Well, how are we supposed to really accept things if we don't question them along the way? The eighth result, this God's will thereby becomes righteousness, and we have raised an entity to the position of supremacy. His will thereby becomes transformed into the standard of righteousness, or asha, hence an ever-widening stream flow, duty, consciousness, merit, and freedom of the will. And I'm going to...